Hello again. I'm going to try not to cough through this one, so I've got tea, so hopefully it works. I'm so excited to introduce Declan and talk about which is one of the most fantastic businesses in our community. Who's got a Starling account? Hey, go on, Chris.
It's pretty good.
That's not bad, eh? Yeah, you were quite. I
Pleasantly
heard
surprised.
he held his breath then for a second. Oh, there's some friends here as well in the room, so which is always exciting. So let me kick off, Declan. One of the things that I'm really keen to level set on is Starling is much more than a bank. So I know it sounds like a really odd question, but what is Starling now, 10 years on?
That's a great question. I think a lot of the people in this room will know us for our current account our services, both for consumers and small businesses. It's amazing looking back now I've been there nearly 9 years, what the business has become. I remember us getting the authorization with restrictions and then becoming a bank, launching in app stores. We've got 5 million customers today in the UK. But as you say, we are more than a bank. We have a very successful banking business, but we have, over the last 3 years, built a second business as we start to take the proposition international, called Engine by Starling. That is where we are selling the technology asset that we have built and that we run Starling on here in the UK. We're present now in 7 countries, and we're also considering how we take the banking license international as well.
Which is so exciting, actually, when you think about how the business has grown, particularly Engine. I remember, actually, you were here a few years ago, and Engine was just an idea. Now we can see everybody with tote bags, which is just really exciting about how the business continues to grow. What employee number were you if you started in 9 years ago?
146, but I think now with leavers, cool. I'm in the top 30, top 20.
Oh, here he is.
There we go.
Everybody speak to Declan about equity later. Joking. Talking about that, Declan, I have to ask you the question. You guys have grown hugely. Where are we on IPO?
Yeah, I mean, it is the million-dollar question. We are 10 years in now. Look, I have no doubt this will be a public business at some point. The decision about how, where, when, and why we IPO, I think, is still to be taken. That's a board and shareholder conversation. We've done a huge amount of work, Lou, with the company preparing it as far as we can, building out our finance function, building out our legal team. We've done a holdco project to put a new holding company on top. We've done a corporate reorganization. So we've done everything we can to prepare the business, absent kind of, firing the starting gun. But look, this will be a public business one day. It's just a case of when and how.
Oh, watch this space. So, moving on then, as we said, you're in your 10-year anniversary. You've got lots of startups here. You've also got high growth type of founders here. What's one of the things that you think has been so successful over the last 10 years? What do you look back on and go, actually, these are the things that have really made a difference?
I think the big event I always kind of go back to in Starling was around 2018, 2019, we were a recipient of you might remember this, when RBS failed to spin out Williams and Glyn. We were one of them.
Yeah, I was there, Declan.
We were the second biggest.
Yeah, really, I'm not over it. Yeah, but thanks.
Well, we benefited from it eventually.
Yeah, that wasn't on the list.
But the program of work they were forced to undertake was to carve out 750 million to give to challenger banks, and that was a key lifeline to Starling at that point. Raising 100 million at that point in your funding journey was not trivial by any stretch, and we came up with a program of work. We pitched it to the independent body that was overseeing that, and we were astonished to receive 100 million. But we delivered the program, and that was what kick-started the small business proposition, which is from being a small business to coming full circle and providing transactional banking and current account services to small business is great for us. We have over 500,000 SME customers today now, and that is, to me, the unique part of the business. We are really excelling there.
So when you look, I mean, actually, what I love about you guys is you've, every single IFGS, and I think, for the last 10 years even, you guys have been huge supporters of this community. What is it that you would say, what are the learns that you've had as well, Declan, around when you think about, through that 9-year journey, what are the things that, I know it's difficult when you say give advice or when you look, because usually your advice is because you royally screwed something up about sort of like 3 times.
We've had a few of those, yeah.
Avoid this. But what are the things that you would give into sort of things to think about as people scaling businesses in this room?
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's around the corner, right? So your ability to adapt the business model, you know, we lived through COVID.
Yeah.
Times when interest rates were very low,
Yeah.
times when interest rates are very high. How does your business model flex for unknown macro conditions?
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time fundraising personally as I kind
Yeah.
of went through various roles and became the CFO eventually. But I would say one advice I give to founders is whenever capital is available on broadly acceptable terms, take the money because you don't know what's around the corner, right? And you think about the market dislocation we've had over just the last, couple of months with the Middle East, that changes the dynamic very quickly from a positive situation to a relatively, negative or uncertain situation at least. And so, the certainty of capital and the ability to execute your plan is a real lifeline, and you can't undervalue that enough, I don't think.
Yeah. What I love about that, and Declan's he's a humble guy, like he is the CFO for Starling actually, and when you think about one of the things you would have had to have done over those 9 years, because as you say, you've done with events that were unknown, is the amount of flexibility you would have had to have create in the role, in the business model, and not only grow that, but also how do you lean in on an industry and community that's already growing. One of the things I wouldn't mind just sort of exploring a little bit more with you is Engine. So what does the future of Engine look like?
We were astonished by the growth rate we've seen in Engine. That is a business that we started 3 years ago. As I said, we've got 4 clients live now, about 70 million of contracted revenue across those 4 clients. So they are, they're sizable. And that's our international go-to-market strategy at the minute. As I said earlier, we are thinking about taking the banking license. We talked about this publicly into North America as well. And I think the success of Engine has been built on the fact that when people look at what Starling's achieved in the UK, they look at the asset we've built, they look at the regulatory scrutiny the platform and the business has been subject to. That gives boards and management teams enormous confidence when they buy from us that this will do what we said it will do. It'll be resilient. It will have no downtime, etc. Like that is the sales cycle is the business we've built it in the UK. So we think of Starling Bank as kind of client zero of Engine, if you like, and then we're now going to market selling that proposition globally. But we're really excited about the future of that business, and it's a really quick way to grow the business internationally because we don't have the bank license in those relationships. We don't have regulatory obligations in different markets. So it's capital light, it's regulatory light, and it's a really neat way from the CFO seat to diversify that revenue mix at a group level because as a bank, we are very dependent on net interest income, but the fees and commissions contribution of Engine over the next 3 to 5 years really rebalances that for us. Yeah,
and just looking at this industry at the moment, and as you say, you've been at Starling 9 years. What's the thing that excites you about the UK FinTech sector?
I think collectively, for a relatively small country, we have built some phenomenal kind of FinTech juggernauts, right? So us, I can mention Monzo, I can mention Revolut. We all sprung up around the same time, 10 or so years ago. There were a few other names as well, Atom and Tandem, who were in that same kind of first cohort of banks that got new banking licenses following Metro Bank. And then very close to home, Stripe, of course, as well. So like this relatively kind of small part of Europe has developed some enormous FinTech businesses and huge success stories. And I think sometimes we are a little bit pessimistic about that and the kind of amazing, businesses we built here.
That's such a key point. I think I was talking to a few people today and we were talking about we have so many success stories, right? We have huge amounts of businesses that have grown, that have developed. We've got startups that are coming through all of the time. Look, I can say a lot about we have to do more and I'm getting older and more action has got to be put around how do we drive greater pace and how can we be more demanding as a sector. But I think your point, Declan, around, and one of the things you said to me just before we came on the stage actually that triggered something in my head, it's not just the growth of those organisations, but they've supported the growth of some of the partner organisations. I mean, you've mentioned Stripe, you've also got ClearBank here, TrueLayer, all of these players have also, you've all partnered together, which I love in terms of then how do you grow those businesses. I'm going to ask you to look a bit ahead. So you've had 10 years Lots going to change. Talk to me a bit about AI, agentic commerce, how those types of things and how Starling are thinking about them.
Yeah, so look, for us, AI, I see it in 3 buckets in our business broadly. So there's kind of customer service in the first area. So how can I make sure the people talking to customers are as efficient as they can be, so they answer the phone as quickly as possible, and they're furnished with the best information to get a great outcome for customers. And that's really how we think about applying AI in that side of the business. And we have multiple examples of that now live and in production over the last couple of years that is driving, better outcomes for our customers. So that, that 1% of customers that can't quite self-solve what they need to do on the app, when they get through to customer service agent, we want to make sure they have a phenomenal experience, and AI is just pushing that on to the next level. In the corporate side, so my finance team, my legal team, our HR team, it's about them finding the processes or tasks that they can pick off using AI. So we've got everyone now using Gemini in the organization, everyone's trained on that, and that's kind of a journey of self-discovery. We've been the first in on the customer side, which is the last of the 3, to put generative AI in the app. So we started with spend intelligence, so customers being able to ask questions in natural language about how much they spent on coffee, how much they spent on their last holiday. We then launched an industry first called Scam Intelligence, where you can upload a picture.
I've actually seen that.
Yeah, you can upload a picture from a marketplace, and it'll give you a score or a rating of kind of the probability of that being a fraudulent transaction. And APP fraud is a massive industry problem, and that for us was something novel that I think solves a genuine customer need. And then most recently we launched Starling Assistant, which is our kind of first attempt at a full kind of integration of kind of generative AI in the app, and that we'll continue to iterate that and continue to lead on that front. And the reason that's important for the next 10 years is because the moat that got us customers at the start of the 10 years was being able to freeze your card, free FX. That has become relatively homogenized in the market now. Lots of the incumbent banks have copied those features. So to me, to go to the next 10 years, you have to kind of dig the widest, deepest moat you can. And I think being a relatively young business with relatively clean data, amazing engineering capabilities, means we can, dictate what the next wave of kind of innovation for customers can be.
That was one of Mike's. Do you remember that when the neobanks first came out? And the one thing you were so excited about doing in the pub was freeze, unfreeze. Did anybody else do that, or was that just me?
Now you can ask it how much you spent in the pub.
Yeah. You had my back there. It was just the most exciting thing. And the really exciting bit was it used to then look like it was in a freezer on the app. Do you remember that as well? It kind of like went, okay, just me. So we're nearly out of time. But Declan, one thing, firstly, just massive thank you. But I have one final question before we go. It's not IPO, don't stress. But one of the things I want to thank you and your team is for the incredible support you give to this community. Because whilst you're growing a fantastic business, you also lean in heavily into this community to collaborate, to support, to provide advice, to give all sorts of stuff. And I know you do that just naturally. And huge thank you to you and your team for that. But looking ahead, what can we expect from Starling? So what are the things that I think are going to drive you into the next 10 years? And you can't say AI.
I will not say AI. I've given the AI push already.
Or agents. Or apps.
I think it's diversification of the business model. So it is exporting it outside of the UK, taking what has made us really successful here. We're doing it in Engine. We will sign up more Engine clients. We will take the technology asset to other clients and create with our partners amazing client experiences across the globe. And we'll continue doing that. I'm really excited about taking the bank license to another country too. And we are very early stage on that, but we do want to do that. We're looking at North America. We're kind of early stage thinking through how we will do it. The reasons for us are unique. One is we're not going to go after retail. So we are not going to chase what I think is an overserved segment, both by Chase and Chime and many others. I think that's a challenging market to be in for retail. But I do see white space for SMEs.
SMEs, yeah.
There's 37 million SMEs in the US. We're doing I think a great job serving 5.7 million SMEs here, or trying to serve them all here in the UK. We want to take that proposition into the US. And the kind of tangential benefit of that is it's a second case study for Engine. So it proves to the North American market we can localize the tech platform, we can integrate it locally, and it unlocks that sales for us in that part of the world. So I think that's part of the next 10 years.
Can I just say a huge thank you to Declan. It's not easy ever doing these things, and particularly on an afternoon when it's sunny. This is such a fantastic business in our industry. I think we all agree with that. And I think the one thing that I've always learned with Starling is you feel client every time you engage with the team, every time you use the capabilities, and every time you walk into the organisation. So that's one of the things I think you didn't pay me for that, that you can actually feel as you go into these organisations. So huge thank you, Declan. And I'll hand over to Sasha.
Thank you, Lou.
Thanks.